Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Dwarven Realms video, I want to talk to you about some tips and tricks that I wish I would have known sooner. I'm hoping the beginners and veterans alike can maybe learn something from this video. If you think there's a pro tip or trick that you think I missed, go ahead and let us know down in the comments as well. But I think we are going to cover quite a bit here in the video. The very first thing you need to know about Dwarven Realms, especially if you've never played before or maybe you're just starting out, is the main way you progress in this game and the way that you see that you're growing stronger is based on the highest rupture you complete. Now, a rupture is literally just a room that you go in, you kill enemies, and once you have enough essence from these monsters, you can go ahead and fight the boss, or you can stick around and farm. The choice is yours. And that really is what a rupture is, and these ruptures go up as high as you can possibly do. The very hardest boss that I'm aware of in the game currently is at rupture level 160. However, at rupture level 125, you can fight Archeon, which is what I consider to be like, it's kind of my goal for the end game boss. And then the 160 rupture is more of a real stretch and a real challenge to kind of push yourself. But in order to get there is quite the journey, and there's going to be things that you're going to be learning as you go and you play the game. And I'm just hoping this video will kind of give you a boost here when it comes to knowledge on the game. So when you very first start out, you'll see your map here, and in the middle is your story ruptures that you can work through. Once you work your way through these 36 ruptures and the different biomes and so on, you will unlock the end game islands, which are the 6 islands you see around the outside of the map. Now, these story islands are pretty cool when you're first going through. It's a great way to get introduced to the story. You're going to meet some special bosses that will later on become rupture bosses that you're going to encounter that are harder versions as you go higher up in your ruptures. But what I love about these story islands is the way that the game works is you have different skills and abilities in the game. So you have your weapon is how you get your skills, and your weapon is what people are going to call your stance. So if you're running mauls, your stance is mauls. But as you level up your capabilities with mauls just by using it, you will unlock different skills. Now you have offhand abilities that are actually tied to your offhand items, and there's 4 in the game. You can get the goblet, horn, trinket, as well as a belt. The belt, I've seen people ask on how you get a belt, because it's not, you don't get these from the beginner islands. Belts are really common in keyed dungeons that you're going to find. Now, if there's anything in the game that you're wondering how you unlock, the answer is just get to the higher rupture that it unlocks at. That's the serious answer. Like, if you're like, how do I unlock the daily NPC vendor? Well, you have to beat rupture 21. A lot of the unlocks are literally, if you don't see it yet, just keep pushing up in the ruptures and you eventually will. That's what I love about these beginner islands is if there's a certain offhand ability you want to try out, or maybe that's what you want to go for, you can just pick whatever rupture it drops from, and it tells you on the tooltip exactly what offhands you're guaranteed to get in there. And when you complete that rupture, it has a chance to drop either white or yellow primarily. And then once you have that offhand, you can actually take it into your fort. And once you have the offhand table where you can upgrade your offhand items, you can upgrade it to purple. It just goes white, blue, yellow, purple. And once you've upgraded it there, then you have a choice of 2 mods. And so there's no randomized factor here. You can decide which modifier you want. All the different offhands they each have 2 different modifiers, and they're all pretty different. You have one of them that I like is fire beams. And one of the modifiers you can choose from is to get an additional fire beam, and another modifier you can choose from is that once the beam's been cast for so long, it becomes bigger and does more damage. There's different things like that, more damage, bigger area, lasts longer. They're all over the board. But if you want to hunt down and search for the modifiers, I will have a link to the Dwarven Realms wiki in the description as well as the pinned comment if you're one of those players that you want to hunt around for something that sounds really awesome. But remember, you have access to them through those beginner islands. Another fundamental part of Dwarven Realms is your fossil. Everyone gets the exact same starting fossil in the game, and as soon as you equip it, that's it. You're not going to find another fossil. But you can upgrade your fossil, and this is going to be a source of your character's power. And the way you upgrade this fossil is by throwing stones into it. There's different stones you can find throughout the game, ranging from health stones that increase your max health, damage stones, armor stones, damage reduction stones, experience gain stones. You also have stance stones, which, remember, that's your weapon type you're using. Also elemental stones, and there's probably more that I'm not thinking of right now, but all those you just smack right into your fossil and it upgrades your fossil. It's pretty awesome. I went ahead and jumped into the game here, and I know I'm super way down here now, but hey, let's see, you can see the skill tree. So before you pause it and just copy the skill tree, let's go ahead and just kind of break it down for you. Not a super deep dive, but just kind of the way I go. Whenever I start a brand new character, the very first node I pick up is Infinite Wind. This is going to give you energy regen. Now, energy regen is really important in Dwarven Realms because energy is the way that you can dodge roll as well as use your Q and R skills that are tied to your weapons that we talked about a little bit earlier in the video. And you want to get to a point where you have enough energy regen that you can spam either your Q ability or R ability and also be able to dodge around without running out of energy. Now, early on, I usually aim for around 35 to 40 energy regen, and that's usually good enough to be able to spam your Q ability and be able to dodge around as well. But you can always just check in town by using those abilities and dodging, and if you don't have enough energy regen, then you just need more to be able to pull that off. After that, I'll go up here into damage, and then I usually pick up all of these health nodes, and then I will grab armor bonus, max health, and then after that, I'll come down here for damage reduction. 5% damage reduction early on is really, really powerful. You can also grab some health regen, energy regeneration, and then over here in these nodes, you can get a bunch of elemental damage. Now, the reason we've gone into lightning and arcane is because over on your pet, if you haven't seen my pet guide video, make sure you do check that out as well. But over on your pet, this affix right here that I'm pointing to allows it so that your lightning abilities will also benefit from arcane. And you can find different mixtures of the elements on the pets. Just make sure you have the pet that matches the elements you're obviously going for. So now that you know we can double dip into elements, you can also pick up even more damage here from your elements. For all three of these big nodes, you can get elemental damage. All three of these combined, just the big nodes is 300% more elemental damage. And up here, you can get damage bonus, which I need to kind of respec my tree. That's why I said to not just copy this. And then you can also get lifesteal. You can get boss damage. Just make sure you look around this. And that, I just kind of told you how I start off the skill tree. This isn't meant to be a full skill tree guide video. Just kind of wanted to point out some of the more useful nodes. And I think I pointed out the max life, but also the armor nodes that are scattered throughout the skill tree are really useful as well. The other thing I wanted to point out here on the skill tree as well is some of these are just straight up blessings or buffs that you're not going to be getting the perk unless you have the buff up. And I believe you just get the buff up from attacking something. It'll show up and last, and it'll also tell you how many stacks and stuff like that as well. Now, not all of them are, but I think most of them function in that way. I wouldn't stress about it too much. The buffs are going to be up pretty much all the time anyway. So that's your skill tree. I wanted to go ahead and touch on attributes as well. The most common thing I see, especially for new players when you're first starting out, and what I always do early game is I dump all my points into strength. And then later on into the end game, when health becomes more of an issue, you can actually spec into your stamina, which increases your max health. And you can get different ways to scale off max health and different things like that. And once you dive more into the game, you're going to see different items with modifiers will be able to benefit based off different attributes. There's quite a bit here when you peel back the layers and start to learn about Dwarven Realms. But that's pretty much what I do is I will put all my points into stamina once I get later on in the game. Early on, definitely go strength. The damage increase is really nice. Another way you can customize your character in Dwarven Realms is through their card system. Once you've cleared 5 ruptures, so each rupture that you clear, you get 1 quartz, and so every 5, you need 5 quartz to get 1 card. You can see I have 30 right here because I did a big push tonight on stream, and I forgot to buy cards, so we can go ahead and do that real quick over here at the Rupture card station. And this unlocks pretty early on. It will show you cards, and these are randomized, and so you can decide if there's a card in there that you want. I typically go for crit chance, crit damage, or flat damage. You can get some crazy stacks on them. And you can also see down here it says 0 out of 3 cards. So if you get 3 cards, when you get your 4th card, it's going to actually give you a bonus. You'll actually benefit from a stack of 6. So once you complete a deck of cards, basically you get 6 times the bonus on it. You can see it right here. Now, I actually need to re-roll my cards. We're not going to do it right now in the video. But yeah, if you see one in here you don't like, you can re-roll and find one that you do like. There's lightning damage and flat damage. We'll go ahead and grab that. Then we can keep going if we want. You can also, over here in your fort, this is going to be your main way that you upgrade things in your fort. When you very first start out, I think you only get 1 reroll. And then through upgrading here, you can actually buy more reroll chances. And again, all these fort upgrades and unlocks and everything are just from progressing your ruptures. Like as soon as you've unlocked one of these and you've done the high enough rupture to unlock a new feature in your fort or a new upgrade in your fort, this guy will be lit up like you can see right here. Another thing, since we talked a little bit about kind of your builds and setting up your character and stuff like that, you can respec your character if you want to. I believe your first few are pretty pretty cheap. Yeah, the first 3 respecs are only 2,500 gold. You can unspec stats, cards, Elven tree, or skill tree. And we'll talk a little bit on the Elven tree later on in the video here, but it's cheap early on, but after those 3, it does get pretty expensive. So you kind of want to decide with the setup that you like. Now, don't be scared to try out different things, but just keep in mind, respecing too much, you will have to pay quite a bit of gold later on. I do have a video guide talking about the Elven tree and some of the nodes that you should go early on. Make sure you check that out. I believe the Elven tree unlocks around level 50. Here's what it looks like. There's different nodes in here you can get that help you craft more efficiently, drop different resources for doing different things, bonus XP, loads of stuff in there, and you level that up through giving this dude materials. I recommend giving him all of these 6 materials, and the other materials you're going to probably want to hold on to and save for crafting. Now, I know I touched on pets a little bit and how you can double dip with the elements, but I also wanted to point out that you could upgrade them through one of the dungeons in the game called Alicia's Lair, I believe it's called. And in order to enter there, you need to have a golden egg that you can enter with. And the reason I'm pointing this out in the video is when you run through the rupture, you're going to see big chicken eggs that you might be wondering, because when you loot them, you're just going to get an egg, and that's it. And you might be wondering, what a waste of time. But do open them. Those have a chance to give you one of the keys that you need to enter the dungeon. But on top of that, once you've collected 20 eggs, you can craft that dungeon key as well. So those chicken eggs are 100% worth opening. Now, I know I touched a little bit on the monograms earlier in the video. So when you're playing the game, you're going to realize there's the different rarities in the game, the white, blue, yellow, and red rarities. Now, the red rarities already have a modifier on them, but you can actually make any item in this game good. Make sure you check out my crafting guide video if you haven't yet. I go super in depth with the crafting system and the way that I craft. But you can actually add on monograms, is what they're called in this game, but they're enchants or modifiers to your gear. They give you more damage. They give you new mechanics that you can use. There's a lot of different ways to kind of customize your build through this system. Now, these monograms, you can farm. Each item slot has a specific area to farm them in. I will have the link again to the wiki in the description below where you can check out exactly where to farm, which monograms you're looking for. And also over on this wiki, it will show you where you can farm specific materials from. Materials in this game are tied to each of the 6 end-game islands. And while you're in there, you have a chance to get a big bundle of materials. You can get a big boost of materials in there as well. So if there's a certain material you're farming for, you may want to check out the wiki and see which island you should be farming for that material. We're back into the game here, and right now I want to go ahead and talk to you about fellowships and fellowship buffs. It's a pretty straightforward system, but it's worth talking about. Fellowships are basically like guilds or clans in Dwarven Realms. Now, there's not direct multiplayer in here, but the fellowships offer a nice little social feature for you to check out. There's no way to actually apply for a clan in-game. You actually have to go to the Dwarven Realms Discord, either looking for fellowship channel and post in there, and you're going to get invited. Otherwise, sometimes people will spam and invite you fellowship invites. And if you're wanting to not join a fellowship, you can actually go into your settings and you can actually block fellowship invites if you want to. So that's an option. But I do recommend joining a fellowship, especially if it's your first time playing. They give you loads and loads of buff and access to a special dungeon. First thing we're going to talk about here is the different buffs. You can get experience bonus. You can also get a damage buff as well. And you can see these stack up to insane amounts. Now, the way that you gain these buffs is when you or other people in your fellowship kill a slug in the rupture. They're these big glowy slugs. That buff is actually shared not only with you, but with your whole fellowship. And when other people, you can see right here, you can see the text popping up that I'm getting all these bonuses because there's other people in my fellowship killing slugs and farming right now. Another cool thing with the fellowship system here is fellowships do level up, so you can kind of compete. Here's the one I'm in. You can kind of compete with other fellowships if you want to, but you also gain access to the Kingdom of Acaris dungeon. If you're not in a fellowship, I don't think you can even go into this dungeon. But you're going to go in here. There's different monograms that you can unlock, and there's a big boss in there with some special loot. I haven't ran a whole lot. As you can see, I have 75 keys in there. That could be something I could go farm, actually, after I'm done recording this video. One other thing I do want to point out with fellowships is there is a chance when you're in a rupture to find a big sand guardian dude. And when you kill him, it'll drop a big glowy hourglass, and it's actually a dungeon entrance that you can go into. Now, this dungeon when you kill that golem, that hourglass shows up not only for you, but everyone in your fellowship. That's why when you're playing the game, you're going to see this hourglass show up in your game because someone else in your fellowship killed that monster and gave you access to that dungeon. Sometimes you can be in the middle of a dungeon run and you'll have to decide, do I want to enter this dungeon or do I want to finish what I'm doing? I would say if you haven't used a resource to enter the rupture you're running, why not go in? But if you're in like a keyed dungeon or maybe in an infused rupture, you may want to just ignore the hourglass and finish what you're doing. The way the hourglass works is you go in there, there's a boss, you kill it. And what makes it really special is the chest at the end has a chance to drop like almost anything in the game. Like, dude, I even got 2 ambassador keys from the end game, or from the end chest there in the dungeon. And these things are pretty rare to come by. So definitely worth running that hourglass dungeon. Another pro tip I have for you here is there is a monogram you can find in the game. You have to farm the Macedonian Firelands, but in there you have a chance to get a bracer monogram that whenever you turn in all of your daily quests, you'll get 250,000 gold. So literally right when you're about to turn in your last daily quest, just pop these bracers on and you're going to get a boost of 250,000 gold right there. Again, in order to obtain this monogram, you do have to farm the Macedonian Firelands, and like all the other monograms, it's just that's where all the bracer monograms drop. And so each time you complete a rupture, you're getting a random monogram out of all the pool that can roll for all the different bracers. I got lucky this season and actually got it my very first try, which was awesome. Speaking of monograms, once you get later on in the game, you can actually infuse ruptures through using these infused beetles. And you can get these as drops. You can also craft them with essences that you get for whenever you interact with a rupture stone. You get these essences. 120 of them to make 1 beetle, and then you can infuse. But where I'm going with this is you can only get the ring monograms from these islands. The only one you can get it from is the one here on the bottom, and you have to infuse it to actually see the ring monogram. Now, the other 5 islands you can get monograms from without having to infuse the rupture. But don't worry about it too much because these ring monograms, they do show up in dungeons, different dungeons that you're going to run as well. Another thing I want to point out here when it comes to really just kind of farming and grinding is there is a resource in the game called scrolls that can drop. Each island has its own scroll type that can drop, and these scrolls are valuable because they're used in a bunch of different recipes, from being able to buy fortune tomb tokens, which play more into the infusion system, where when you go into an infused rupture, if you have one of these tokens, you can modify your map and get some really lucrative rewards. And you need different scrolls for these. You can also use the scrolls to craft one of the end game dungeons, the Bridge of the Demigods. You will need 6 of each scroll to farm that. So where I'm going with this is you probably don't really want to like grind ruptures. Obviously, if you have to get more powerful, that's fine. But these scrolls don't start to drop until rupture level 75 and higher. So if you can at least do rupture 75, that's going to be your sweet spot to be able to really start spamming. And then also it's going to come down to once you're just blasting the mobs and they're dying instantly, you can obviously bump it up and farm. But kind of 75 is the sweet spot for these scrolls. Another pro tip with that fortune token is if you do go into an infused rupture and you talk to the NPC in there, you don't have to pick one of them. If you get one you don't like, you can close the window out and save your token for next time and hopefully get one of the map modifiers that you are looking for. I know we've covered quite a lot in this video. I was thinking about breaking this up into 2 different videos, but hey, here you go. Here's one massive chunk of tips and tricks. Hopefully you're enjoying it, guys. I got a few more things I want to cover here in the video. The very next thing I want to talk about is crafting. Again, I have a crafting guide video that goes super in depth, but just a couple things I want to point out is that energy regeneration we talked about earlier in the video. You can find energy regeneration early on purple items. They tend to have energy regeneration on them, but you can also craft energy regen onto your gear as well. Now, a way that you can identify, because you're going to get so much loot in this game that it's like, do you want to sort through every single piece of gear? Not really. It's time consuming. So you need to kind of pick out what is worth crafting. Now, early on, I wouldn't stress about this too much. This is more later on once you've kind of, have enough gear and stuff. But early on, crafting can be really valuable. Just make sure you check out that crafting guide to go full in depth there. But I want to point out double rolls that's worth knowing in this game. If you look at an item and the armor value or damage value on it seems higher than usual, that's because it actually rolled double what it could just as a base. You can also tell if it double rolled if there's 2 digits next to each other. So if it has a decimal and then 2 digits, it's a double roll. If it has 2 digits in front that like 33 or 66 or whatever, then that means it double rolled. Hopefully I explained that correctly to you, but that tip actually came from deliverance from the YouTube comment section. So thank you for pointing that out. I really hope the game developers will add just an icon that shows that, hey, this rolled double. This item is good. That'd be a massive quality of life improvement. Another thing I wanted to point out here too, I know we've kind of talked about if you get stuck to just grind, but on top of that, you don't want to just grind. You also want to hit up the catacombs. The catacombs are going to drop some of the highest item level items in the game. And that's because catacombs actually scales off the highest rupture you have cleared, plus 22 ruptures. This is why when you get your catacomb ski for the very first time, you don't want to just immediately jump into the dungeon. You want to make sure you've pushed and you've completed the absolute highest rupture you can possibly do, and then go into the catacombs. There's a hidden room in there. As soon as you enter the dungeon, you just go straight, blast the wall open. There's a secret room back there. I do have a catacombs guide video, though, if you just want to see it and kind of see everything that has to do with that dungeon. Make sure you do check that out after this video. Another tip here, and when you very first start out, you're going to unlock a table where you can turn in scrolls and books and tablets that you find for experience points. There's one thing you can do here where once you've completed Rupture 21, you will unlock access to the daily quest NPC. And one of the dailies is to turn in 6,500 books. So if you want to, and if you can pull it off, you can hold on to your books when you very first start out until you unlock that daily NPC and then turn them all in. And then you've already immediately completed your first daily quest. So again, but if you need that boost XP to get through and you can't get to Rupture 21, then feel free to use the books. Just kind of a little thing that I do when I'm first starting out in a season. Jump back into the gameplay for this one. This one just has to do with leaderboards, and I think this one's pretty straightforward, but it's worth pointing out. You can always check the leaderboards to see what weapons people are using, what skills they're using, and this shows down the breakdown of all of their abilities that they're using, as well as their monograms. And then you can also see, this is kind of what I wanted to put in the video here. You can see what dungeons people are doing to really farm for gear. Now you can see that this person's only done one Harmonian Olympus. That's because it's probably not as valuable. There's a Minlow Deer. And I have guide videos for all these out, so make sure you check out our Dwarven Realms playlist there. They've done 70 catacombs. Again, that's where you get the highest item levels from. They've done the Hourglass. We talked about that. And you can see the Enclave. I can't believe they've done 81 runs. That's crazy. Not sure why they're running it that much unless they're really just farming for the mount. Maybe there's something else in there. Someone else knows why people are farming so many underground enclaves. Let me know. But you can see over here with the Bridge of the Demigods, they've done a lot compared to Archeon. And that's because you need to complete 5 bridges to get enough materials to do 1 Archeon fight. Now this is your level 100 dungeon. And then this is your level 125 dungeon. And these are, in my opinion, the 2 end game kind of dungeons. Once you're farming these, you're really pushing that end game for sure. And then at that Rupture level 160 is that Zul. But the point here in this little tip was if you want to know what people are running and kind of what you should be running or doing or whatever, or you just want like kind of some point and guidance, you can always just check out this information here. The last piece of advice I have for you here is when it comes to your shadow stones, you're going to find these through fighting shadow monsters in Ruptures. You're going to find these shadow stones that you can then turn into 2 different options. The first one is a stone skin. And what this is going to do is this is going to increase your damage reduction bonus. So you're going to smack that into your fossil. But now, one thing you need to keep an eye on here is that damage reduction does cap out, a hard cap at 50%. And this is separate from your armor as far as I'm aware. And it does. So once you've hit that cap of 50, you can then go in here and start crafting these experience gain stones. In my experience, it's taking forever to hit that hard damage reduction cap, but just be aware of that so you're not just putting in extra damage reduction that you probably don't really need. And don't forget, you can also get that damage reduction over here as a blessing as well. So maybe you only need 45% there, and then you can get the extra 5% from that node. And that's going to wrap it up for this Dwarven Realms tips and tricks guide video. I hope you learned something useful in this video. Hopefully you found this video useful and or entertaining. If so, don't forget that like button and subscribe to the channel if you think I've earned it. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today. You can unlock some cool perks like early access to videos, as well as some fun blooper videos, and also showing your amazing support for the content we're creating here on YouTube. But don't forget, your view alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.